Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Soul School. Unfortunately, Jeff is not able to join us tonight, but that's okay. He's very busy doing some family things, and that's wonderful. Uh, and as usual, you all know me and you know what I am capable of. And one of the things that I am most capable of is forgetting to shut the volume down on my phone. Oh, come on. What would you expect? Anything less from me. And, certainly as soon as the show's coming on the air, I get a dink. All right. So just give me a second here, just a second to do what I do. Find the sound, turn it down. Bill's laughing. I can't even hear him in the studio, but I know he's laughing. He's like, what have I gotten into with this woman? I just know it. There's Peanut Buttercup. There she is. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Belle, I know, but I was busy chatting it up with you.
At least there's no Christmas tree.
I know. Well, that was the thing too. And I even moved the screen to hide the boxes that have all the Christmas tree stuff in it that haven't gone out yet. And then there's Peanut Buttercup.
Yeah, look at it.
Doo-dah. You can't go wrong. I mean, you got to admit that the show's kind of got a homey feeling,
I was looking through the atomic clock.
It's on its way to you, and I'm quite certain that it's caught up in the completely dysfunctional USPS Atlanta office. I'm sure of it. I'm relatively sure that you'll have it by Easter. If not, we'll shoot for like the 4th of July, because that's Atlanta.
All right. I guess we're ready for class to start.
I guess we are. Yes. I love you. He's my producer, Bill. I adore him. Truly. So class is in session. It was almost like, before I even found out that Jeff couldn't make it tonight, that he had a family function to attend. I told him that I would take care of setting the title and the show description for this week. And I must have known that I would be doing this alone, and that's perfectly fine with me. God knows I can talk an hour straight between breaths. So, I guess how I would like to start is just by saying that, in my opinion, Soul School, which is this place that we call life on earth, begins at birth and it ends at our death. And I think that every single moment that we spend alive is a lesson, is something that we take something from. Years ago, when I worked at a school for boys that were troubled, were having difficulty being maintained in a public setting, they would come to the private school where I worked. And what I learned there was invaluable to me in terms of going forward with my life, going on with my life. And one of the things that I learned is that people talk a lot about role modeling as a parent. I've never been a parent. I mean, the closest I'm ever coming to being a parent is sitting over my shoulder. The Princess Peanut Buttercup, she's exhausted tonight. She probably won't be joining me in my lab because she's resting. It's been a very busy day. But role modeling is something that people think they're teaching their children, and really what they're teaching their children never stops from the moment that baby is conscious and in the world till the moment that baby, hopefully at the end of a long, fruitful adulthood, leaves this planet. And anything that a parent says or does in the presence of their child is role modeling. And I don't think that any of us get through our childhood unscathed. I think that we eventually, even if it doesn't happen when we're quite young, eventually something's going to happen that leaves a mark that scars us for life, that we remember all of our lives, that very often get piled into that compartmentalized unit in the back of our head called regrets. And life is a process, it's a learning process. And you've all heard me say time and time again, those who follow the show regularly have heard me say that the thing that's so difficult about Soul School is that the tests always, without fail, always precede the lessons, always. And that's the hard part, because each one of us will inevitably be tested in ways that perhaps we never expected to, or that we feel unprepared for. Well, I have a lot of extended family and friends, and I don't like to call my people, my tribe, my followers, because it does that, automatically makes me a leader, and I don't really perceive myself that way. I'm learning along with everyone else. But for those of you out there that come to this show for some solace or some comfort, or some lessons, week in and week out, I deeply appreciate your presence here. And I would venture to guess that most of you, if not all of you, know my current situation. And that being that I am currently not living in Florida, I am in Georgia for the foreseeable future, um, because my mother is in hospice, and I live here at my sister Christine's house, where my mother has been with her for the last 20 years or so. It'll be 20 years in March. And she's done her part over these decades to take very good care of my mother so that I could write. I lived here from 2007 to 2015 in this house. And this is where I wrote my trilogy of books, House of Darkness, House of Light. And my mother has been a very, very important, even when I'm absent from her dwelling, or I'm on the road, or I'm doing an event somewhere and then go back to Florida. All the time that I am gone, I'm on the phone, I'm on the computer, I'm in touch with my mother and my sister Christine. But now I've been here since November of 2022. So it's been a while, and it's been a real gift to me to be in a situation where I can be an active daily part of caring for my mother. The hospice people are fabulous. She's got a great team of caregivers who really genuinely care about her and love her. And it does my heart good to know that they think we're doing the best job that anybody has ever done in a situation like this, because we promised her many, many years ago, promised her that no matter what, come what may, that we would not place her in any kind of a facility or a nursing home of any kind. She would not thrive there. She would not last long. Um, and to have the luxury of having her at home, and because I'm med certified and Christine worked in nursing homes for years, we know exactly what we're doing. We know exactly how to do what we do, and we care for her with great tenderness and compassion. Unless of course unless of course she just like blew her stack for no reason, at which point, Christy's, well, I'll just give you a case in point. It's really funny. It's adorable story, really. But I was doing this show, I guess it was maybe about 6 months ago. And mom was really beginning to start to slip into dementia at that point. It was a very marked deterioration. And so Christine wasn't here. And I asked my niece if she would come down and just stay with her grandmother for 2 hours so I could do my shows back to back, because it was that or cancel them and put up reruns. And I really wanted to do the shows. So I asked Nicole to come down. Well, Nicole is a little on the loud side. And so she went in with her Grammy and closed the door to her bedroom, because I had asked her if she would, because her voice carries and she uses her outdoor voice no matter where she is. And so she went in and she closed the door. And my mother said, "Why'd you close the door?" Well, first she had to determine who she was. And once that was established, she said, "Why'd you close the door?" And she said, "Well, because Auntie Annie told me I had to because I'm too loud." And my mother just looked at her and she just, with this sweet, innocent face, said to her, "She's such a bitch." Now, that's not my mom. And for all intents and purposes, the mother that I've known my whole life, the bulk of my 65 years, isn't with us anymore. She thinks that I'm her mother. She thinks that I'm her sister, Frankie. I let her think that now, because for a while we were trying to explain to her that Frankie had passed away in 2011. But the few times that we tried to explain to her that, yes, she's here with us in spirit, but no, she's not among the living anymore, my mother would weep uncontrollably. And so now I just let her think that I'm Frankie or the librarian or the general manager of the facility that she thinks she's in. I don't want this to overshadow my memories of who she was. I don't want, when this is all over, I want to remember who she was. And so tonight, we're going to talk about, well, I'm going to talk about the lessons of life and death. I firmly believe that the only true measure of love is the ensuing grief that accompanies a loss. And I can't afford to take this personally. I am one of countless billions of people who have lived and died here on this planet. And I would venture to guess that the vast majority of people have grieved the loss of a loved one if they lived long enough to lose loved ones. So I can't take this personally. What I can do is offer support and some modicum of comfort and compassion to those of you that are in basically the same position that I'm in and that Christine is in, and my sister Cindy lives just a couple of miles down the road, and she's here frequently. And what a blessing for my mom to have 3 of her children around her all the time. And unfortunately, Nancy lives down in Florida and she can't be here frequently, but she comes whenever she can. And of course, April is our little angel on the shoulder. And we always know when she's around because she always wore the same exact fragrance. Her perfume was the aroma of gardenia, and it was pungent. We used to call it her old lady perfume. Oh my God, you take a bath in that or what? You know, it's not supposed to be like, it's not supposed to be a shower. It's just supposed to be a spritz or two. Oh, I so remember it so well. And she's around us a lot too. And this house has been very active. We've had a lot of spirit activity in the house in recent months, and I know why. I walked into Mom's room probably about 6 months ago now, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was just going to check on her because sometimes her oxygen gets dislodged during the night, or she'll kick off her cover and it's a chilly night and I'll pull it back up on her. Just checking on her because I don't sleep that much. And as I crossed the threshold of her room, I heard, hello, just like that. I didn't recognize the voice, but I thought perhaps my sister Christine. The room was dark. All I had was the light from the hallway, and I could see that Mom was sound asleep. And I thought maybe Chris was on the other side of the bed checking the water level and the oxygen tank, or whatever. That was personally, we're up a lot. We're in checking on her frequently, so that was entirely plausible. But Christine wasn't in the room. Someone was. Someone was. And so, for those of you who are in the process of losing someone incredibly important to you, please know that those who have passed, our ancestors, someone's with them. Someone's helping you watch over them. Someone is there. And growing up in the house that I did, I learned very quickly that there is such a thing as an afterlife, even though I still can't tell you what it is or how it works or where they are or any of that. I don't have answers for any of those questions, but they are. And for me, that's the miracle. I don't even care who they were in life, that they still are in afterlife is absolutely mystical and magical and miraculous. And it has helped me through this process to know that they are around her, they are with us, that there's activity in this house that is benevolent, is loving. Sam, you couldn't scratch yourself like behind the chair where nobody had to. Please don't lick anything untoward. Please just be a good dog, okay? Be a good dog. I don't know where he went. He's here. We have animals. We have, several animals here. Also a joy. Every morning when I go to bring my mom her morning meds and her cup of coffee, Peanut follows Peanut. Peanut follows Peanut. Everything's reversed on these screens. Did you know that? Everything's reversed. And comes with me, and she jumps up onto the bed, and drowns her grandmother in sweet morning kisses and just loves her and watches over her. And no matter what mood mom's in, no matter what kind of night she's had, as soon as Peanut throws herself down between us, because she has to do that because she doesn't want me necessarily hugging mom or brushing her hair, or she would really like to be the one that's being touched by both of us. She has issues. But as soon as she does that and flips over and exposes her soft underbelly for the ritual morning body rub, mom is grinning from ear to ear, and it brings her joy. One of the things that I have learned through this process is the absolute necessity to force yourself not to reflect on the past or project into the future, but to literally force yourself to live present in the moment, to make memories literally minute by minute, things that you can remember, things that either touched your heart or gave you a glimmer, a glimpse of who your loved one once was. We had one of those moments with mom. It was sometime last year. My mother and I are Scrabblers. We used to play Scrabble incessantly. Well, it felt like it was incessantly. She almost always beat my ass. I'm telling you, the woman had a command of this language unlike anyone I've ever known. And when that began slipping away from her, I would say seriously slipping away about a year ago now, Christine very quietly removed the Scrabble game from under the coffee table and put it elsewhere in the house so that mom wouldn't see it when she was out in the parlor with us and want to play when she couldn't really hold the tiles anymore or create any words on the board and would just get lost in her thoughts. But there are also moments where she's back with a vengeance. And Chris and I were sitting in the I was on the sofa. Christine was in her chair right there. And my mother was sitting right where peanut butter is. And someone came on the TV and was it was an attorney talking out of both sides of his mouth, which, obviously he aced that at his, bar exam. And Christine started getting really pissed off about what he was saying. I don't even remember what it was. And I said, well, it's just what they do. It's just what they do. She said, well, what he said yesterday was exactly opposite of what he's saying today. And then they think people are supposed to have confidence in what they're saying. I'm like, Chris, just relax, okay? It's just what they do. Change the channel. No, I want to hear what he says. He's such a liar. She's going on. She's like, what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Ann, what's the word? Oh, I got COVID brain. What's the word? And so I'm sitting there and I've got my little Google machine and I'm thinking about tapping in, talking out of both sides of your mouth so I can help her find the word that she's trying to express in her moments of frustration. And all of a sudden, my mom, who was sitting there drinking a Boost through a straw, pulls the straw out of her mouth and she says, duplicitous, and just said it to Chris like, you're an idiot. How do you not know that word? And then she just popped the straw back in her mouth and finished her Boost milkshake. And we laughed. Oh, God, did we laugh? It was precious. It was just precious. Where she came up with it, we'll never know. But it proved she was listening, that she was engaged, and that she still has command somewhere of this language. Um, and it was a joyful moment. It really was. It was joyful. That's what you have to hang on to. That's what we all have to hang on to, are those moments that come when we're bereft, when we are in despair, when we're experiencing grief like we've never felt before, especially if that grief is long and drawn out and you see a deterioration occurring that even a few years ago you couldn't imagine, but it's here. And it's those moments that can lift you up out of that despair, because it really does feel like an enormous black cloud. But there is a silver lining. There is. And every day, something happens that I'll just jot down on a notepad. Or, I walked into her room the other day and I had given her a little box of notepads, just a little like gift box of individual papers and a pen that I put on her bedside table. And I said, if you have any divinely inspired ideas, or you want to make a list of things that you want, or you just are thinking about something and you want to write it down, here you go. Here's a box of little papers that are easy to handle. And here's that, excuse me, that favorite pen that you love so much and steal from me with regularity. And later that evening, we went in and she was already asleep, and we were just checking on her before we went down for the night. And there was one little piece of paper out of that box, and she had scribbled on it because her beautiful handwriting has deteriorated as well. But she scribbled on it, "Thank you, ladies, for all you do. I love you with all my heart." Framing it, keeping it forever. It's precious and wonderful when we have those moments. So for those of you who are suffering, who are losing someone you adore, hang on and remember those moments. Make a note of it. Write it down, because you're going to have to put that into that huge box of memories that we all share in our consciousness. That grouping of, this was us then. This was our lives together. And everything that comes and goes in between adds to the overall impression that one human being can make on another. Emerson wrote, and I'm paraphrasing it. I should have it memorized as many times as I've read it, but I'm paraphrasing. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote that if you have the opportunity to positively impact the life of just one child, then you've lived a successful life. In a lot of ways, she's our child now. And she's a sweet, sweet little girl. And she says the funniest things. And she does. Sometimes she exercises poor judgment. but she doesn't really have any judgment left. And so that's why we have to be so careful and thoughtful and mindful and watchful. But the love is there. Every morning, cup of coffee in hand, I walk in her room with her meds in my pocket, and I hand her coffee, and she opens her arms wide and wraps herself around me and tells me how much she loves me, even if she doesn't know who I am. If you haven't faced something like this in your life yet, I hope that if you do, that you can come to terms with it in a way that leaves you healthy and happy in your heart, that you did everything that you could without fail to get through this test. I've told countless people I will never be the same on the other side. I never will. And that's okay. Excuse me. Because it is part of growing. It's part of learning about how precious life is. And I just don't think that losing a parent, particularly a mother, is something that anybody can go through unscathed. I've heard people have talked to me, told me stories about I wasn't close with my mom. We didn't really make amends until she was close to making her transition. We sat in the hospital, we talked, we held hands. I've had several friends go through that, where vast periods of time had existed where they lived separate lives. They weren't really in touch. There were issues that went back decades. They didn't want to discuss it. But when it came time to say goodbye, something happens. And what I'm most grateful about in terms of my situation is that there's nothing left unsaid between us. Nothing. Everything has been discussed. Everything has been shared. Everything has been worked out. There are no issues between us. She gave me life, and I will help her as she reaches the end of hers. I really tried hard not to cry. I want you to feel some of the joy that I feel too, at having the opportunity to do this, to be a round-the-clock, exhausted caregiver, because I know that on the other end, I will be able to rest easy as I recover, knowing that I did everything in my power. And I'm so grateful that my life is my own, that I didn't have to, quit a full-time job. And, I have my books, I have my royalties, I do an occasional event. In the last couple of years, I haven't traveled very much, but I've been around, and, so I still have a source of income, but I am free to be here with her. And when I do have to go away for a couple or 3 days, oh my God, poor Christine. Where is she? Where is she? Is she coming back? When will she be back? Is she coming back tonight? Will she be back this afternoon? and I could have just walked out the door to go to the airport an hour before. So I understand that when I do have to leave the house, that it is a burden for Christine, and Cindy does everything she can to be here as frequently as possible so that we all pitch in and make it easier. And if I'm not out of the country, then I'm free, to call her anytime, and she can call me anytime. And that's such a blessing to be able to tell her what I'm doing, who I'm meeting, where we're going, what I'm looking at, especially when I didn't get to talk to her very much while I was in Scotland because 6 hours difference and $600 a minute for a phone call. But I did reach out to her several times and brought her back. My mom's Scottish heritage. So she's kind of Heinz 57 variety, as are we all, but predominantly Scottish, from Clan Buchanan. And so she couldn't come to Scotland with me, but I could bring Scotland to her, and I did. I took probably 1,000 photographs and bought I don't know how many books for her and picked up stones along the beach, and I brought her back about, 20 pounds of stones. And all my memories. And I brought everything back home and got home just in time for her birthday 2 years ago after the trip. And so it was a very special birthday. And she's read every single one of the books now, just devoured them. But we knew when the Scrabble games stopped and the books started getting laid aside. For my mother, who's been a voracious reader virtually her whole life, we knew that she was disengaging. And unfortunately, with the dementia going the way of her sister, her only sister, my Aunt Frankie, it was our greatest fear come to pass. I know I'm sharing a lot of personal stuff with you, but I ask for you to indulge me and take just a piece of this with you tonight, because this is a hard class. It's a hard lesson to learn, and it's a hard class to teach. And I hope if even one sentence of it lingers in your memory and wraps itself around your heart for you to pull out at precisely the right moment that you need it when you face this kind of hardship and struggle and grief and sadness that you not only are you sure you can't bear it, you can barely describe it. I just want you to know that as all of you have been there for me, expressing the most loving sentiments, I get probably 20 or 30 texts a day just from my inner circle of people, many of whom I didn't even know 10 or 15 years ago, but that have come into my life in a profound way. I know that you care, and I know that you pray for my mother, and I know that there's real love. Even if you've never met her, you love her. And I so deeply appreciate all that you do to make it easier, even if it's just a little bit easier day to day. One of the things that I can impart is to abandon all expectations, just throw them away, because living present in the moment, living literally day by day, but also in the minutia, moment by moment, bears gifts of its own. Valentine's Day, Christine went shopping and bought several bouquets of flowers, and we filled her room with flowers, and the aroma was just intoxicating. And I made a special dinner, and we had a wonderful time together. And Mom doesn't remember that it was Valentine's Day a couple of days ago. Mom doesn't remember her last birthday or Mother's Day, but we do. We do. And she was here for us to celebrate that with in that moment on that day, and take a few pictures and make some cherished, heartfelt memories. I had a hard day today because, well, Mom had a hard day and she had a hard night last night. But I set my clock to get up anywhere between 5 and 5:30 to go check on her, take the dogs out. And I heard the news that Alexei Navalny had been killed. Anybody with half a brain knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. And I thought about his family and all that he sacrificed, and how his brutal end was inevitable because he posed a threat to someone who will never willfully relinquish power. And it cast a darkness over the day for me. And try as I might, as often as I did, I kept pausing throughout the day to pray for him and his wife and his family. The worst mistake that he ever made in his life was a deliberate one, and that was returning to Russia when he knew he was going to be incarcerated. And so basically, he's a martyr now. And I hope that he didn't die in vain. And I hope that some good will come of the light that he shed on this planet during his 47 years. And I know that we each and every one of us leave an imprint while we're here. We touch other lives. We love other souls. We make a difference on this planet, some more than others. Some do it loudly, some do it quietly, but we all do it. And I think the most important thing that you can do during the course of your lifetime is to help at least one person to make their transition, to feel all the sensory, all the visceral pain and grief, because it is the measure of the love, the only true measure of the love. If you don't remember anything else that I say to you tonight, try to remember that. We live in duality. We live in darkness and light. The only thing that levels the playing field between all human beings is that we were all born and we will all die. And we can't predict when that's going to happen or how. But if you have the opportunity, if you have the freedom that I'm so grateful to have, to be able to be here with my mother and my sisters. My father comes up from Florida to see her and to visit. Nancy, April, is with us. In a way, I've never felt closer to Mom than I do now. And she doesn't always recognize me. And I knew where this was going the day, sometime last year, that she asked me to write our names down and leave it on a piece of paper next to her bed so that she would know who we were when we came in. Dementia is a beast. It's a thief. It robs anyone who suffers from it, robs them of their memories, robs them of joy, and robs them of time. But memories can be made. New memories can be made. And if you find yourself in the same situation that we are in, there's nothing wrong with sitting with the one you love so dearly and reminding them, revisiting the best. Pull out a photo album and go through it. We did that with my mother's wedding album not long ago. And she was so precious. She's like, oh, who's that pretty lady? I'm like, Mom, that's you. Who's that handsome man? Mom, that's Dad. You married him a long time ago. Oh, did we have children? I'm like, yes. Yes, we had children. You had children. You had 5 of us. She obsesses about when I was 15 years old. I took a summer job and I worked all summer long and kept stashing the money and putting it away, stashing the money, putting it away. And late in August of that summer, one of my mother's friends took me to a very fancy jewelry store called Tilden Thurber in downtown Providence. And we were living up at the farm, we're just out in East Jesus. And she took me into town and I ordered a mother's ring that had all 5 of our birthstones in it. And I gave it to her for her birthday from all of us. When I was 15 and I'm 65, and she pulled it out of her dresser the other day and she put it on her finger and she's like, I found this gorgeous ring. Look at this ring. I'm like, Mom, that's actually an antique now. I gave that to you 50 years ago. And I revisited the whole story with her. And she was just filled with light and excitement. And she said, do I remember that? And I said, I don't know if you do, but let me tell you exactly how it happened. And it was your friend. And I said her name. I said, she took me to Providence. And then she took me back to Providence to pick up the ring in time to give it to you for your birthday. And I, gave her all the details and described the whole room, and all of us were around her and how thrilled she was to receive that. And now she wears that ring every single day and she plays with it and she twists it and she turns it. And every now and then this is so beautiful. Where did this come from? Tell the story all over again. Every day. She wants to know the story of us rescuing Peanut. And she and I did that. She and I rescued Peanut in January of 2020, right off the road, right in front of this house. And she wants to hear the story every day. So I tell her the story every day. And then Peanut, who knows she's being discussed, rolls over on her back and exposes her soft underbelly and happily receives the full body massage. And those are moments that I'll always have with her, as long as I have a memory. So this is all part of it. The lessons of life and death. And I hope that for those of you who have lost or are losing someone who you adore, I hope that this in some way lifts you up and gives you hope. And just know they never really leave us. They never really do. So that said, I love you all. I thank you for coming. And class dismissed.